Hey, sim racing fans, if you're looking to really get into sim racing, that's what today's video is all about. Now, you don't need to go out and spend a ton, like $2,000 or $3,000 on a setup to do sim racing. You seriously don't need to. All you really need is to have a PlayStation, which is probably one of the cheaper systems between PlayStation or Xbox. And then you could use a computer. There's so many different options, but basically there's console or there's computer. If you go console, in my opinion, you can get games that are a little bit better in graphics, but if you go computer, you can get more on the realistic sim racing side with stuff like iRacing, but again, the graphics are not there. So keep that in mind when you're trying to choose. I may be a bit biased because I'm a PlayStation guy. You may not, but let's keep on going. Next is to have a wheel. Is a wheel important? Yes. You could go with a controller, but believe me, using a controller or a keyboard to control your car is nowhere near as much fun as a steering wheel. And the more money you spend on the steering wheel, the better kind of reaction you're going to have, the better feel it's going to be. So there's multiple different levels. So there's the entry level steering wheel that you can find at a Best Buy for like $100 or even $50. And basically all that is quite literally a steering wheel. You're just steering the car. It's basically an elastic inside, and if you twist the steering wheel, or if you turn the steering wheel and you let go, it's going to go back to center because there's an elastic inside of it. But that's basically it. You're not getting that feel of it being an actual car. However, if it's for a kid, that may be an okay option. However, if you spend just a little bit more money, you can get what I use, which is a Logitech G29, which is for PlayStation. The Xbox version is a Logitech G920. And with both of those, they can both work on computers. So if, let's say, one is on sale, then what you just need to do is just get one, and then you can use it on your computer if you're using your computer to, of course, do sim racing. But going from there, Logitech G29 depends on where you live in the world. In the States, you can sometimes get them for roughly around $300. And of course, links are down below in the description to grab everything that I personally use. And then you can, in Canada, they're like $500. But that's where I live. Anyways, so that's one option. That's kind of the entry level when it comes to force feedback wheels. And with a Logitech G29 or 920, basically what you're getting there is, of course, it's still turning, and when you let go, it'll go back to zero, or go back to just like a real car goes back to zero, I guess you could call it. But what you're also getting with the steering wheel is its force feedback. So if you're a parent watching this for a kid who wants to get into sim racing, take it for example when you're driving a car. So when I'm driving my Mustang, for example, and I'm drifting a corner, if I'm drifting a corner and I rip it back hard to try and continue and straighten out the car, and then I let go, then it's able to go back to straight, and I can continue and I can control it a little bit better. I can feel the road, just like in real life. Or when I'm drifting my truck in the wintertime in the snow, and when I let go of the steering wheel, it'll straighten back out but continue to go a little bit farther, and then I can actually continue my drive. It's hard to explain without having the steering wheel and having a camera on it, but this is some of the things that you're going to be looking for in a steering wheel. You can go a little bit higher into the Thrustmasters that are getting up into that in the States, $500, $600, $700 range. In Canada, up to $1,000 range or more. And those will do I'm going to say the same thing, but for those who are watching this and they're already in the sim racing, they're going to be probably commenting and saying they're not the same. They're not. However, to the beginner, they may feel the same. For me, if I was to move up to one of those steering wheels, I would feel the difference. But for somebody who's just starting, who may be 14 years old or who may be 19 years old and just getting into this world, a $300 or $400 Logitech G29 is going to work just fine. You're going to be feeling the road. I will warn you right now, if you're still watching this video thinking about getting a Logitech steering wheel, if you're watching your kid, if you're getting it for your kid, and you're watching your kid play with the wheel, and then, or if you're an adult and just playing with the wheel yourself, and you're doing an off-road, a rally course, and you start going around the corner and you hear it go pop, 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 that's just something that happens. It's part of the wheel. You're not breaking it. Your kid's not breaking it. That's just something that happens. I guess you could say it's a defect, but it's not really a defect. It's just something that happens with the technology that's inside that wheel, so don't really worry about it. When you start going up to those really expensive wheels, you're not going to be getting that pop, pop, pop. That's just my word of advice for you. And then, do you need to have one of those cool setup things with the racing chair and you're there? You could. There's some cheap ones. You could probably go onto Facebook Marketplace and get a used one for a couple of $100, especially when somebody's just trying to get rid of the damn thing. Because, of course, some people do grow out of this, I'm going to call it sport, but some people may not call it a sport. But I'm going to call it a world. Because they're quite large. If you don't have enough room in a new house that you possibly bought, or a new apartment, some people get rid of those things super cheap. I almost got one a little while ago for $50. I don't have enough room for it here, but it would have just sat in my garage until I got another place. However, it's just one of those things, and sometimes you can grab them for super cheap. They're generally around $500 to $1,000 for a cheap one, but you don't necessarily need to use it. What I use myself, I have a 43-inch TV sitting on a desk. I've got my steering wheel literally about a foot or two from that monitor, that TV, 43-inch TV, and it almost is like the VR thing because it's so close. And then I have it hooked up, my steering wheel hooked up and my shifter hooked up to the desk, and then I've got my office chair, and I'm all set. That's just how I have it. And you could have it just like that as well. And if you've got that kind of a setup, then you're all set. If you're trying to do this in your living room, you're going to need something that holds the steering wheel. It clamps onto a desk, it clamps onto a thing. So there are some smaller, non-massive things with racing chairs. There's like holders for the steering wheel. That could be an option, so you could look into that as well. Anyways, I hope that this has helped you find a cheap alternative to getting into sim racing. If it has, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again next time.